Shadow of the Erdtree had to be hard. The long-awaited Elden Ring expansion is upon us, and boy has it really changed things. This is From Software's first DLC since the Ring City all the way back in 2017. 3 games and 7 years later, we finally have a DLC in Shadow of the Erdtree. And let's just say there's been a few conversations surrounding this DLC, especially around the theme of it being difficult and hard. And I'm gonna come out here and say, it is hard, but it makes sense. And it really comes to one thing: you guys suck. I mean, expectation. Who said that? Wasn't me. Let me explain myself for such blasphemous statements. Now, Elden Ring, unlike the past Souls games, Bloodborne, and heck, even Sekiro, has a much more mainstream player base. Now, whether that's due to George R.R. Martin giving a bigger spotlight on a very popular game studio, or the fact that this game was open world, or it's one of the most accessible games in the From Software library. Ultimately, Elden Ring strayed quite far apart from a traditional FromSoft game. But on top of that, they really gave the player base many options and tools to help make the game a bit easier. I'm looking at you, Comet Azure users. So with these many eyeballs on Shadow of the Erdtree, the conscious decision was made to make this DLC more appealing towards the hardcore/veteran players. And to do that, they had to return to their roots and what made From Software games so beloved in the first place: the fact that their games were unforgiving and difficult as shit. Cause at the end of the day, who really continues to play the game once the hype dies down? The hardcore players. They are the most loyal fan base and keep coming back. And this DLC is the culmination of the years of success. FromSoft did not forget what made them great. Now let's get a bit deeper into what makes Shadow of the Erdtree so fucking hard. Cause I'll say it was hard. Maybe I was on New Game Plus, but seriously, when I first entered these lands, everything including random mobs to invaders were hitting me so hard, I fell through the basement floor and then back onto the roof.
How did you get up there?
I fell.
1 or 2 hits and I was seeing the loading screen, which gave me a lot of reservation about how the boss fights were gonna play out if I was getting demolished by the Do the Brawl kid from Shrek. Now, I did take Miyazaki's warning about this DLC being hard and you can't being over-leveled for it very seriously. But boy, is my reading comprehension not so high, unlike the damage in this DLC. Yellow! I'd like to report a crime. Thankfully, FromSoft implemented a solution for the difficulty that not also makes people explore the open world, but experience key pieces of information of the game's lore. The solution is the Erdtree Fragments and Revered Spirit Ashes, where the Erdtree Fragments reduces incoming damage and increases offensive output, and the Revered Spirit Ashes does the same thing, but for the Spirit Summons, which both only exclusively work in the Land of Shadows, so it has no impact on your progress in the Land Betweens. Now, these items are actually found throughout the DLC.
Pretty much everywhere.
However, they are usually located at story-relevant locations, like the Erdtree Fragments being found at any of Miquella's crosses. I really like how they made this work with the exploration aspect of Elden Ring, while also having it be story-related too. If you want to have a playable experience, play the game properly, cause you darn know some motherfucker just gonna go run in blind and just go, why is this so hard? Speaking about hard individuals, the boss fights. If I had to use some words, very hard would be my choice. They can actually conveniently be broken into 3 groups. Somewhat forgettable. Oh my god, this was a joy to fight, and why the fuck is this so fucking rigged? The forgettable boss fight is pretty much in the name, forgettable. Not every boss can be amazing, especially in a DLC this large, so that's fine. A fair amount have quite some interesting lore that actually ties back to the original game, but we will get to that later. But I don't think I've ever had such joy fighting bosses before in a while. Mesmer, Bale, and Midra were easily my 3 favorite bosses, and it wasn't even close. Because for one, they were actually fair, but their fights were a visual and audio spectacle that made them really fucking enjoyable to play. I'll be honest, I really thought with Mesmer we were gonna have another Millennia moment.
In the embrace, mesmer.
Could you not be yourself?
For
5 minutes!
But thankfully, it was just a really cool boss fight that was balanced and fair. Not absurdly tanky, no BS moves, just a really fun fight. And especially his second phase, like, oh my god, what the liquid snake is going on here? Epic. Bale's boss fight, on the other hand, when you combine the arena music, visuals, and the optional NPC quest lines, creates one of the most legendary and fun boss fights of all time. Because if you do Egon's questline, you are literally awarded with one of the best voice acting performances in video game history.
Hold a true great warrior, Bandai Egon, with a hail of harpoons, with every last drop of my being,
Bro is literally screaming on entrance and hyping your ass up and being the best cheerleader, all while Bale is casting lightning and volcanic explosions throughout the fight. All of course while being accompanied by one of the most ominous soundtracks I have ever heard. From a boss fight perspective, Bale feels like a fair fight. None of his moves are actually crazy fast. The only potential problem is he does have a dragon hitbox, which at times can be janky because dragon hitbox. Altogether though, the fight was fucking crazy. Chef's kiss. And Midra is like Bloodborne, but in Elden Ring. Yep, that's it. Now, whilst I had a merry of a time with Bale and Mesmer, the same cannot be said about these next bosses. Now, I'm sure you would have noticed I mentioned fairness quite a bit. This is, of course, the exact opposite of these three. The Patrused Knight, Commander Gaius, and Promised Consort Radahn. These three have to be the toughest boss fights I have ever fought in my entire Soul series career. And it's not even cause they're like difficult or anything like that. No. It's just cause they're bullshit. Especially Radahn. Let's start with Commander Gaius and the Patrused Knight. These two alone made me have a sit down and question my general gaming abilities. Like, am I that washed up? Was I always that bad? Steam Hams?
No.
It's FromSoft. For Commander Gaius, Bro's opening move had me successfully dodging it like maybe 10 times in my entire run with him. I just could not get the timing or the hitbox right. Bro was clipping me everywhere and anywhere. And then later on the fight, the charge was still so inconsistent for me that I ended up using Bloodhound steps to just help with the inconsistency of that attack. Since this boss fight was very much an endurance battle and I'm all out of endurance. The Patrused Knight on the other hand, when it summoned the blue flames, I rolled left, I rolled right, and I rolled right into the loading screen. For the life of me, I couldn't dodge it. I also adopted the Bloodhound steps and opted to use the Carrion Knight shield, cause it happened to be the shield I was using in general, and it just so happened to have great magic resist stats, which allowed me to just tank through it. God bless the magic resist stats. Nothing better than having the right tool by chance. The true RNG. The fight in general wasn't too hard, just the bullshit moves that are seemingly undodgeable. However, these two pale in comparison in what Promised Consort Radahn does. Quick side note, what a fucking entrance to a fight, am I right? Now, I appreciate it being the last boss and it being hard, but this is ridiculous difficult, unhinged, and whatever adjectives that are suitable for this boss fight. His first phase is pretty much what a Soul series fight means in its purest form, learning the movement and punishing. Nothing really to note, everything is fairly reactable, there's a fair amount of cues, but it is a large moveset, so it does take a bit of time to get used to it. Except this move though, it just keeps hitting me. Literally feels like having a juice box thrown at you in the middle of a fight. But his second phase. Boy, his second phase. When Mikula joins the battle, all his moves from the first phase get the biggest steroid injections because all his moves are now enhanced with Holy Light. And because of that, the dodges that worked in the first phase no longer work in the second phase, even though it's technically the same moves, just with light. Because the light's gonna get you this time. You also have the most ridiculous movesets, where Radahn literally disappears mid-combos and you're meant to just dodge on feel. And accompanied with AoEs that cover the entire map. Oh, and why not? Let's give him instant transmission. But you know what's the best part? Because now the moves are enhanced with Holy Light, your screens also get blessed with the biggest light vomit you have ever seen on your television and or screen. The visual clutter, to say it politely, is outrageous. Forget blindfolded completion, have you seen it blinded by light completions? My respect for this fight is how bad I struggled. I made sure every point was optimized for the build I was gonna commit to. I even found specific talismans and changed armors to help with this boss's damage. Cause to me, this is an endurance battle on a sinking ship and I can't swim. Genuinely rigged. But I guess I like those odds? I have a theory that any boy associated with the color purple is going to be pulling some bullshit out of their asses in any boss fights. Prove me wrong. Looks like we're fighting Grimace in the next DLC with this one. In all seriousness though, this boss fight was insanely difficult. Like there was just so many things that could go wrong and they went wrong. Fuck this boss fight. Difficulty and me aging 10 years in a span of 2 weeks aside, I want to talk about the things that this DLC did that really exceeded expectations. I really was amazed at how visually stunning some of these areas were. Like it really gave you a sense of amazement and how really small you are compared to this world. I remember stumbling upon the Stone Coffin Fisher and was like, bro, how deep is this? Speaking of deep, this DLC is actually huge. The boss count from main to field to optional is staggering, and the areas to explore are gonna keep players very busy. I personally already sunk 40 hours into this DLC and I haven't even explored all the areas yet. I don't think I'll be getting those hours back. I just can't help but think for the people who decided to play Elden Ring and the DLC altogether, this has to be a fucking journey of a game. Like, the closest comparison in my head right now is base Witcher plus the Blood and Wine DLC, which itself was pretty fucking big. Point is, this DLC is fucking huge. But the biggest exceeds expectation moment for me was the lore expansion. Like, after beating the final boss, I was genuinely excited because it meant I could finally enjoy all these fucking lore videos that connected and explained stuff that you and I are too slow to connect or even pick up. One of the better known highlights of finishing a From Software game, getting educated by the lore videos. The lore that this DLC expanded on, added and covered was astronomical. Every single Outer God made appearance in some form or another. Like, you have the Outer God of Rot appearing in Romina, you have the formless mother in these blood fiends, and even the fingers get an explanation. A lot of mysteries were also explained too, like why Dragon Lord Placidusex was missing heads. Spoilers, Bale took them to absolute mad lad. But most importantly, Mode beat them allegations!
I'm gonna win.
There's plenty more of these revelations too, and if I covered them, this video would probably be an hour long, and I'm sure we all have better things to do. There's just that much stuff to take in. Really exceeding what I was expecting, cause the Ring DLC did not give us that much, and that was the culmination of 3 separate Soul games over like how many years? Now, unfortunately, there was a few disappointments, but something I really felt like that it's worth mentioning, as it kind of made the DLC felt rushed, and that's the fact that the DLC feels disconnected from the lands between. Now, I know technically the Land of Shadows is physically disconnected from a lore perspective, but I'm more talking about the reference and mentioning of this area by any NPCs post or pre-DLC. Like, if they had Sir Gideon provide some info on this, even a few lines of dialogue, it would have given a sense of connection and completion to the lands between. I mean, he is the all-knowing, but apparently has no clue about this area. All-knowing, more like all out of fucking clues, bro. Like, even if you didn't know, we could, I don't know, tell him? But no. I guess everyone's pretending this place doesn't exist. Speaking of pretending like things don't exist, where the fuck was my alternative ending choice? Now, this really surprised me. Like, after the Renan and Mikula fight alone, that warrants an actual optional ending. But you are instead awarded with a pretty mid cutscene that gives us the tiniest amount of info. One of the most toughest boss fights in the most significant arenas, and all we get is a cutscene with Mikula yapping. That's it. Like, it just felt rushed and was such an easy opportunity to have a Mikula ending, where you can decide to side with him or his order. But no, not even a Saint Trina ult ending. It just felt really inconsequential. Like, we just stopped a god and no one seems to care about it, and it has no impact on the main game. Such a low-hanging fruit, and yet it was missed. I think to conclude, this DLC was hard, but it was a return to form from FromSoft, cause it really gave us a lot. I just felt like it just needed a few minor things to really complete it. I'll leave you with this quote from Arrowhead Studios. A game for everyone is a game for no one. Well done, FromSoft. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. And if you think someone would enjoy it, please share it with them and their mothers. In all seriousness guys, really appreciate you guys watching the video. And those who subscribe, you will get videos very soon. Take it easy guys. Later.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kind of down with her finger